color theory is what we'll be exploring in today's video. We'll be figuring out things like what is a hue and how do we use saturation. What's the difference between a primary color and a secondary color? All of these are very necessary when you're doing anything, whether design or development, creating a website or an app, and figuring out what the meaning of colors are is also important too. My name's Adrian and I do videos around design and development. So before we get started, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and let's just jump straight into it. Let's start off with the primary colors. These are the ones that can mix and match between all other colors. I'm going to create a circle for each one of them so that we can take a look at them. The very first one, which I'm sure you know and have seen many times in nature and in the world, is a red. I'm just going to place it here at the very top. Our second one will be a yellow, so I'm just going to grab it over here. And our last one here will be a blue. That should conclude our main primary colors. The next thing we have is secondary colors. So let's do secondary over here. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. And what we're going to do for the secondary colors here is actually we're going to place them between each one of these colors. So a secondary color here might be, say, purple. So I'm just going to put it over here just like that. Another secondary color will be here below the blue and the yellow, which will be green. So I'm just going to place it here. And our third secondary color will be orange, which I'll place between yellow and red. So those are our secondary colors. Then we have our tertiary colors. So let's put that in as well. And these are the colors around these. So for example, between red and purple, we might get, say, this pinky color. Between, say, blue and purple, we might get this sort of a, I don't know what this is, violet, I guess? It's a hard color to really pick out, but it's just over here. Between the blue and the green, we're going to get a nice teal color. So let's put that in here. Between the green and the yellow, we're going to get this, I don't know how to say the word for this. It's like this highlighted greeny yellow. Between the orange and the yellow, we're going to get amber, so let's just put that in here. And finally, between the red and the orange, we're going to get vermilion, so let's put that over in here. So now we've got our secondary colors, we've got our primary colors, and we've got our tertiary colors, and these make up also our hues. So let's check out what hues are. And this will be one of the easiest things we can do, because a hue is the color of a color. It is how much of a red it is, or how much of a blue, or how much of a reddy purpley color it is, say in a pink range. It is the color of a color, and in this case we've already defined all of our colors, whether they're primary, secondary, or tertiary. You normally see hue wheels where you can pick out a color. Say, even here on the far right, we've got a number of different options here for color wheels. And this slider here on the right is our hue, which we can pick out. In this case, we've set it to red. This covers our primary colors and hues, and let's jump to create a new section here and talk about something a little bit different. In this case, what I'd like to talk about is saturation. And let's have a look at that. So what is saturation? This is the strength of a color. Now, for example, with red, we're using 100% saturation over here. If we wanted to give it less saturation, we're going from the bottom left to the top right here on our color spectrum. So a less saturated version, for example, might be this one here, which we're giving it a little bit of gray. We could give it a little bit more gray here by going down this wheel vertically, or diagonally anyway. And as you can see, it's got less red in it and more gray as we're going down, until when we're fully down the gray scale, where we're also almost only showing gray for the saturation without any of the color at all coming through. So saturation sort of gives us the strength of a color. But there are other naming conventions to this as well. There's also things like tinting and shading. So let's have a look at those. We've got tint over here on the left, and maybe we'll do shade on the right here. What is a tint and a shade? Well, if we copy the same colors across and we start off with this red, let's actually put it here in the middle in this case. what I'm going to do is, for this example, I'm going to give it a bit of a tint. So the tint would be applying some lightness to the color. So instead of going down the wheel, we're going at the top of the wheel, and we're applying more white to it this time. When we make it all the way to the far left, we're basically left with almost white. So this is what a tint looks like. For the shade, it's going in the other direction. So let's actually make these a little bit smaller so you guys can see them. Here, where we have the red, now we're going down the black spectrum. So we're giving it more blackness. And when we do, we're slowly working our way towards a darker version of the color. We're basically adding shadow or shade, so to speak, whereas the other one is we're adding lightness or tint, so to speak. And this is the difference between tint and shade, and it's pretty simple. So by combining a bit of shade and a bit of saturation, we can say have a darker, more friendly color, which isn't too heavy on the eyes. And this is essentially all our options for red. This is often referred to as a monochromatic option of red, where, for example, if we had a color wheel, these are all our options. We've got every saturation of red, every tint, every shade, and we can go all the way from a very light version of it to a very saturated one. And this is how we get started with colors. Let's take a look at how we can pick better colors against this red. So for example, if we wanted a complementary color to add to our website, what color would we use? This is where we have to figure out color harmony. What colors go together and which ones don't? Now we can use our color wheel we created earlier to figure this out. So let's put in complementary colors in here. Using this wheel, we can sort of get a good idea of what colors might work together. So here we've got a red, and if we wanted to figure out a good color to use with it, we can actually use our color wheel and find out that green is the opposite version here, and this one would go together quite well. In this same way, we can sort of match colors against each other. So this orange might work with a good blue, or for example, this green might work with a good purple. This is one way to figure out complementary colors, but there's another way to figure out good complementary colors that might work together that provide harmony instead of just being a complementary color too. And this is what we call analogous colors. These are slightly different. What normally happens here is there are colors that essentially work well together because they're close on the spectrum of the other colors they're related to. So in this example, we might have red, and a couple of other colors that might work well for that is maybe an orange and a purple, or well, this purpley pink that we have. If we rotate this, we can figure out other ones that work well together as well. So we could use green and yellow and this other green quite well together. We could use the blue and the teal and the green together, and we could also use, say, the purple and the blue together. All of these are closely related colors, and this is why they're nice and pleasing on the eyes. They're harmonious, so to speak. And when you're using a design and you're trying to figure out colors, it's always good to figure out what your primary or main color that you'll be using is, and which other colors are harmonious in that aspect. Now that we have a better understanding of what colors work together, let's figure out what the difference between the temperature of different colors are, because this is something that I see pop up a lot of times. We have all of our red associated colors over here, and we have all of our blue associated colors here on the left. And both of these do have slightly different meanings. If we took a look, we can tell that the colors here on the right, with the reds and stuff, they feel more warm. They're what we associate as warm temperature colors. And this might have a meaning when you're applying different context to it, whether an image or some text. Whereas the ones here on the left, they're cool or cold colors. They feel like maybe this is what you would see in an ice temperature or somewhere where you're coming in cold, so you can apply different meaning to those too. The greens can have different meanings associated. Sometimes they can be cold or warm, but I always like to call them energetic simply because they feel like they're They're colors that you see in life, in nature, in movement, and green usually means go. So this takes us to our next step, where we have a look at the meaning of what colors have and what associated ideas or thoughts they can provoke when you use them. We're going to take a look at color psychology next. And this is sort of like what the meaning of colors are, because colors do bring and convey different meanings depending on what you're trying to do. We've got a lot of colors here to go through, so let's start off with maybe our red. Better yet, let's fill out all of them and take a look, because each color can have a positive and negative connotation. Red, for example, can mean love and energy and passion for its positive values, but it can also mean anger or danger or warning for its negative ones. Whereas other colors like black and white could mean the difference between good versus evil, or pure versus intimidating. Each color really can be then applied in a different context, maybe next to a different image or meaning that you want to do, and that way it can give more life or essentially understanding to a design that you might be doing. This is just our very first video on color theory. There is a lot more to it, and we can take a look at how we can pick out different colors for a website in our next video, and what those colors might mean when we're doing so. We might also have a look at how we can design photos to blend with the right colors, as well as maybe picking out the color theme for a website, such as the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors that we might use in an actual design, and how they can blend together. But I hope you guys enjoyed this one on color theory. If you did, hit like and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.